I'll be dealing with is the biography of Jurgen Klopp. Um, I selected this book because I am a fan of Liverpool, so I felt that I'll be passionate about it. And he has a strong Christian background, but the book is not about that, but you can see underlined within the book certain principles. So I would like to highlight in the next 15 minutes things that I have gleaned about his leadership, his style, that are unique. I mean, there are many basic fundamental leadership qualities that he has, but that may be a theme that runs through all leaders at various levels. But there are just certain things about him that I want to highlight. Now, the book basically is about getting to know Jurgen Klopp better, his philosophy as a football person and also as a man. That is, it's about not his personal life, but it's about him as a football person and as a man. What made Jurgen Klopp such a, in inverted commas, a leader with such cult followership, beloved person in the nation of Germany, a man that has been referred to as a people's manager, and we'll look at some of these things. What are the reasons behind his success at his first club, which was Mainz, a second division club in Germany? That's a club that he played for. As when he was during his playing days, he was an average player. He played for that club, eventually became the manager, then went on to Borussia Dortmund, and then finally at Liverpool right now. What drives him, and how did he become a league-winning manager? It's a story of his career, a story of his working methods, and a story of his philosophy. All right, his working methods and his philosophy. And the first major thing about Jurgen Klopp, and I think people should think deeply about this in their own personal lives also, because I think this does happen to us. All right, but we may not recognize it. And sometimes when Jurgen Klopp even had challenges later on in his coaching career, he will make statements like, I reverted back to what I knew and I had perfected. The first major thing about shaping his philosophy was a coach he had in Mainz. Mainz was a second division club. It was struggling and kept struggling just to keep above relegation and not to get relegated into the third division. And this was when they employed, the club employed a coach by the name of Wolfgang Frank. The most interesting thing about Wolfgang Frank in his coaching methods was that because of the way he coached people, and this also happened to Jurgen Klopp, most of the players that Wolfgang Frank coached eventually became coaches themselves, which meant that in his coaching them to become effective players, he instilled into them managerial skills. He instilled into his players leadership skills. So it's interesting, most of his players eventually became coaches, a higher percentage seen in regular teams. And the reason was he spent more time in what you call the classroom, talking about the tactics of football, right? More time than the average coach will spend. In other words, he was teaching them heavily the theory about football, the patterns, the way to mark. He taught them. So they were very knowledgeable about the game. Now, most coaches will take just people onto the field and just, tell them, do this. But he actually imparted to them tactics, knowledge about the game. And this translates also into business. They've said that some of the strongest businesses in the world spend more energy in training their workforce than in just advertising. Many people spend a lot of money advertising, all right? I think Starbucks said that, but they invested a lot in training people that were there. And I saw this pattern also in what they were doing. So he spent a lot of time in meetings, working on tactics with the players rather than just the drills on the field. So his players became knowledgeable about the tactical side of football. And they were successful with that. And the senior players within the team had been developed on that. Those other coaches, when they hired them, they told them about that philosophy. And then they will ask them will they be able to say, oh, no problem, we'll continue and expatiate and, develop, but they'll take the job and go their own way. So they started having problems. So the last one that they got apparently had a conversation with Jurgen Klopp, who was one of the 6 senior players in that particular team. And Jurgen Klopp gave him as advice as to what he felt he should do if he was going to take the job, the playing style, and the things he felt he should do. So when this particular coach went for an interview, he just downloaded what Jurgen Klopp told him, and that's how he got the job. Later on, the management realized that, it was Jurgen Klopp that actually told him all those things. Now, this now tells us something about Jurgen Klopp and his leadership qualities. So the head of he was still a player, he was injured at that time. The head of the club called him, or the director at that time called him and said, would you like, since you understand this philosophy so well, would you like to take the offer of being a player manager? And he said it, all right, thinking that Jurgen Klopp will say, no, he will shy away from it, I can't. He said, immediately, Jurgen Klopp said, yes, I will do it. And then said, on one condition. I mean, this was a player. He said, I become a manager and no longer a player. So I won't be player manager. I'll be total manager of the club. So he transited, all right, in that conversation from being a player with his teammates. He saw the big picture early. He saw the opportunity that came to him. He understood the nature of the opportunity. He grabbed it with both of his hands. He did not shy away, all right, from the opportunities or some of the qualities of leadership he had. He didn't shy away from the opportunities that were presented to him at that particular point in time, even though the risk, all right, would have been high. So, okay, so this was one of the defining traits, all right, that can be seen in Jurgen Klopp in terms of his ability to see the big picture early and to embrace it. A second quality that we'll have also in Jurgen Klopp, all right, I mean, I'm just going through the book. It's a 300 and something page book, so it's loaded with a lot of stuff. I just want to give a few points here. Several times, this team, this second division team, came close to qualifying for the Bundesliga, which is the division, like the Premiership, the top division. And for 3 years, they came close. Maybe they lost by a match and lost. On the 4th year, they just needed 1 point in their last 3 matches to qualify. And they lost the last 3 matches. Then the next year again, they got again to that top brass, and all they needed was 1 goal in order to qualify for it, which meant that they played and they were leading 4-0. Just when the thing got to extra time, and they just allowed the other team to have a consolation goal, which was 4-1. And they didn't know the other team competing had scored 6, and that's how they lost out. Now, I want to say something about the quality of Jurgen Klopp that is really striking. And he was 36, a young guy, encouraging all the players haven't gone through 5 heartbreaks that we're almost getting there. And eventually, he said something that was really powerful. He said, we didn't like the idea because people started bringing up the idea that maybe there is a curse that rests upon that team. Later on in his career, all right, those that know about him also will know that he lost 4 finals, cup finals, before he eventually won with Liverpool. And people were trying to project that mindset also. And this affects people a lot in leadership and making decisions. Because once you allow those kind of things start playing with your mind, that's it. Once it gets into your brain that maybe there's some extra force on the outside that you have no control of, that is imposing these things upon you in terms of a curse, then you're gone. And he said something, all right, when people were saying maybe there's something wrong. Klopp's words were, I don't believe in a football God. I only believe in God. I believe everything in life has a meaning. And one day I will find out what today meant. The pain that they were experiencing, having lost just by one goal. He said, I will find out what today meant. So the next day, in addressing the crowd, when he finally went to address the city and all of them came and they were sad, he said, yesterday I asked myself what it all means. And then I realized that someone has decided it is necessary to show people that you really can get knocked down once, twice, 3, or even 4 times and get up again to win. He said, and that's the understanding that he had about their loss, that they are going to be used as an example. And this was what he did in prayer and came to that conclusion, to send a message to people all over that you can lose this way and still get up and win. The next year, they won and got themselves into the Bundesliga. So about his playing philosophy, his leadership style, the person who impacted him the most was this Wolfgang Frank. He says that gentleman walking into his life was no ordinary day for him, football-wise. He showed them, and this is another lesson of leadership that he embraced. He showed them it wasn't how good you were as an individual, but how good you could become as a team. He taught them this principle. Having the best plan rather than the best players is what brings success. In other words, it's the best plan and not necessarily the best players. Later on, I'll talk about it, the value of talent, but he taught them the issue of having a team with a plan rather than just an individual, all right, with talent and with hope. So Klopp's success was therefore built on 2 things. Team building ability, the ability to work as a unit. That's what his leadership was built. And then the second thing was the ability to recover quickly from disappointments and losses. Now, his mentor, the Wolfgang Frank gentleman, said this. He said, because he took Klopp took Mainz into the Bundesliga, he could not. And he said, he did everything that I did, but there was one quality that he had that I did not have. And that was the ability to recover quickly from losses and disappointments. Now, it's important I also drop in one thing to show you the nature of this man. After they lost by just 1 goal and couldn't get into the top division, that day, on their way back, when all of them were in tears in the dressing room crying, Jurgen Klopp said he was holding up for them until he saw his first son, who told him, how then am I going to go to school? What do I tell them in school tomorrow after this loss? Will I be able to go to school? He said he just broke down looking at his child. But he gathered them together, and on the bus back to the hotel where they were there, they sang this song, all right, from losing, all right, and they sang back that about getting into the top division there. And they sang, all right, this song, never again, second division, never again. That's what they sang. Having lost 5 times, they started singing, never again, never again, never again. All right. Later on in life, he also used this with Liverpool after they lost the Champions League. They came together and sang again. So these are hidden qualities about this man. All right. He did agree that if you have stars, your chances of winning will be greater, but you must function as a team, which means if you're going to succeed, you must build a team and not just operate as individuals in leadership. Pragmatism, he said, is what counts, not aesthetics. And we see that also in the German culture, all right? People that understand German, it's the plan they have. They play against teams like Brazil, who are individually far more talented than them, but they come to the field with a plan. they come to the field with a plan. So Klopp stayed at Borussia Dortmund, where he put in practice the same principles, adapting it now to the talents of his players. So one of the things he began to learn in Borussia Dortmund again was that, yes, we have this plan, we have this philosophy that he had about football that he learned from the man, all right? If you read the book, you can get in details about that philosophy there, all right? But then he now understood I have to adapt this to the talent of my players. He learned a big lesson there. To succeed, you don't force your style of play on the player. Your style of play to suit the skill that you have within the team. All right, he experienced great success, but then the challenge of success set in, and I'll just drop this in. And the challenge of success is once you begin to succeed, success is much more difficult to manage and handle than failure or adversity. A lot of people don't know that, all right? It's much more difficult. The weight there is more than when people are going through adversity because complexity is setting, all right? People now start studying you. People start watching you. People start looking for your weakness, the talents that you have. People want to take away those talents, all right, from you. People start adopting their own style of play to neutralize your own influence and headhunt the best talent that you have. That happened to him in Borussia Dortmund after 2 years. A lot of his strategic players were lost, all right? This is part of leadership. That's why when he got to Liverpool, I didn't understand it when he was saying it until I read this book. He kept saying that our biggest deal is to keep our players after they won the Champions League, to keep our players. This was somebody that learned from experience, all right, has adapted his philosophy there. So on leaving Borussia Dortmund, where he had won the league twice, back to back, he practiced something quite unique. And this very unique, something he said. And they asked him, he said, well, I'm going on sabbatical for about a year. And they asked him, why is he going on sabbatical and not taking? A lot of clubs want you. He said, I have been in 2 clubs only for the last 14 years of my life. This shows that I have been married to these clubs. In other words, emotionally involved, giving all that he had. He said, I want to be single again before I get engaged again. In other words, he said, I don't want to go from a place of where I was engaged and just go again to engagement. I want to be single again, to detach myself from the past in order to enter into my future. And he said, when the right job comes, I will know it. Another interesting thing about him is that 2 of his assistants that helped him in 2 areas, they also left the club with him and said they also won't be earning anything. They also will go on sabbatical. When he gets his next job, they will follow him. That showed the type of person he was. He was a people's person that drew people close. Okay, all right. So at Liverpool, he found a club which was almost the same culture match as Borussia Dortmund in many things. And one big area was the development of young talent to become international players. So another skill set that he had was the ability to identify, all right, players and talents when they were young, and then to train and to develop them into becoming successful people. And this is one of the reasons why I really respect him. It wasn't a question about let's just get a team that has ready-made players. It was about identifying. The great Robert Lewandowski, all right, who's a great international and one of the best center forwards in the world, said he recognizes and backs talent. He recognizes and backs talent. He doesn't just want to buy players. He has an eye for youngsters who can help him put his ideas into practice. Now, another thing about him was that he only hired talent that could help him translate his ideas to reality. So this is how he hired, and this has to do with leadership and hiring. So if he had ideas and he saw that the people he had could not translate, they didn't have the skill set, he went to look for a person who had the skill set or the talent to help him translate an idea he already had. So it wasn't just going out and pulling people. He was pulling people that he knew had the exact skill set to translate the idea he had in his mind into reality. And that's one of the powerful ways of hiring. All right. When he got to Liverpool, he also met Liverpool at the stage where he met Borussia Dortmund. Right, they were not doing too well. Liverpool was 10th. In 3 years, he made Borussia Dortmund champions. So that was the kind of challenge that he also had, or the goal he had in Liverpool. Arriving at Liverpool, he had the task to build the team into his own image, which took him a few years to do. A deep sense of self-evaluation. And one of the things he did to the young talent was that, which is what a lot of young people need from leaders, is that he put a lot of confidence into them. He will call the young players aside, who he was going to bring them up in a strategic match, and put a lot of confidence before they get on the field. But one thing about him we also see is that he had a deep sense of self-evaluation, and he always thought about the necessary adjustments he needed to make into the team. So anytime they lost or anytime things were not going well, he will do self-evaluation and examine. In 2018, 2019, now I'm just saying this because some people say maybe that's Liverpool's problem now, today. His tactical soulmate who came with him from Borussia Dortmund, I think they had a disagreement and he pulled out of Liverpool club. And if we look at the trajectory of Liverpool club, I'm just trying to say the importance of our state. It may be right, it may not be right. But the trajectory of the Liverpool club, that was when Liverpool was set to win. Now, they came second that particular league, but it's the same players that went in to win the league the next time. But that year, they won the Champions League. They won the league the next time, but their game wasn't as potent as it was even when they didn't win the league. And that steady decline has been in Liverpool club now. All right. And just reading deep through the book, I might be wrong, but one of the issues was that because it was called this tactical soulmate, and he was in charge of tactics. And this guy was trying to be employed by many other teams, but he said, I do not want to be as a frontman. I always want to be in the background. So in life, we'll come across such people in our lives. It's important that you understand. As somebody said, he said, it is the person who plays the second fiddle in the orchestra that actually has the most skill. That's second fiddle. And sometimes we don't appreciate that in the way that we should. Finally, I'll just say this is a man who had great attention to detail. He left nothing to chance. All right? Nothing to chance. Nothing. It was on his initiative that for the first time, any coach said he wanted a coach hired just to teach people how to throw. All right? To throw the ball in. Just throwing. So they have a throwing coach. All right? Attention to detail. A coach to advise players on their technique. A nutritionist that was there. A fitness coach. So every single aspect there had some level of expertise that dealt with the details. And finally, all right, about 15 minutes, which is over now, Klopp is a man of deep conviction, and this is necessary in leadership, who has never been afraid to stand up for his convictions in life, even if it meant walking away from what he loved the most, because, all right, he will not betray his deepest convictions inside his heart. In fact, when he left Borussia Dortmund and they won the league with Liverpool, the owner or the director of Borussia Dortmund said, looking back now, maybe we should never have allowed Klopp to leave. We should have asked all the players to leave. That was a mistake. And retained the manager and then brought in new players. And then somebody that knew him said, even if you offered him that, Klopp will still have walked away because he felt it was the right time to walk away. And he was a man of great conviction. So, all right, these are the things that I gleaned out briefly from the book. It's a very, very powerful book, over 300 pages. There are many things about leadership you will learn in there. In between the lines, you see his faith, all right, popping up there. A very focused, a very passionate, determined man who will go into the pubs to have fish and chips with people in Liverpool, sit with them, a people's man. He only stopped doing that because he used to attract too much crowd used to come in, and it became unhealthy even for the people doing the business. So he's a level-headed man there, and did that. All right, so those are things I gleaned from the book that I can share within allotted 15 minutes time. 15 minutes. I hope it helped you a bit.
Wow, it helped a lot. He knew the right time to walk away. I mean, he felt that was the right time. Thank you very much for this wonderful time. It's been quite incisive and detailed. I would say phenomenal in terms of the things that we could glean from your own eyes as you read the book. There are quite a lot of things that I took away from what you said, and they're quite deep. The place of Frank, Wolfgang Frank, the place of seeing the big picture, no curse, and they're just quite a lot. His power of motivation, even through singing, that power to take, to be able to be there in the moment, even in the moment of loss, and to see the way forward. I saw you there talking about pragmatism and not aesthetics, and that to succeed, you don't force your style on the team. You adapt your style to play to the strengths of the team that you have. And well, I like to ask a few questions, maybe three, but I'm going to ask that every other person, please, if you do have questions, drop them in the chat, and then if you do have some comments, maybe something you want to reinforce that Pastor Pojo has said, please drop them in the chat, and then we will take that very quickly. Now, my first question will be this. In 3 sentences, what would you say are the reasons that one should buy this book and study the life of Klopp? That's like a summary. I know there are quite a lot of things that you have spoken about, but if we look at just 3 sentences.
All right, let me say it this way. If a person wants to understand perfectly how to integrate their faith in God directly into the marketplace and glean out principles that will actually increase your level of productivity without a violation of your conviction or your belief in God, it's a book to go into. Second, if you want, because Jurgen Klopp came from a second division. He didn't come from, I don't want to mention anybody's name, but he didn't come from any top division side and with a lot of resources. He came from the second division. All right, Klopp, he was an average player. He has faced a lot of setbacks, and he has emerged out of those things with outstanding results. He's considered as one of the top 3 coaches in the world today. So if you want to know how to surmount defeats, and setbacks, and use them as a springboard, and understand a very practical concept of life in itself, I think you should get that book. It's loaded. It's loaded.
Okay. Thank you very much. Integrating faith with the marketplace without violation of values, and also how to rise from an average background, surmount a lot of obstacles, and still go out there to win. All right. There's something also intriguing about the book and about this gentleman. And I find that in a lot of situations, particularly in leadership and leading successful organizations. And that's the place of talent acquisition, talent retention. I mean, hiring. Let me just say that. Hiring talent, okay? Retaining talent. And then once you have developed them, some would like to leave. How do leaders balance that? Because you said something about both about the team that he worked with and about the players. And I think that's an interesting mix for every organization. What will be your own gleanings concerning that? What can we glean from, I mean, putting this also.
Yes, I'm sorry to say. Let me just say this here. Human beings, what they want that can even be more, which is more valuable to them than even money, just some monetary increase, is the quality of relationships in terms of the level of affirmation they receive, the level of acceptance, the challenge they have within an environment where they are affirmed, where there are certain things that are deep. So if you are doing training for people, yes, people will leave, but as a leader, it can't be in a detached way that, I'm just doing training for you. Yeah, you must cultivate a personal relationship with some of these people that when you are growing the business up there. And they have to also see, all right, that the future of this business and the growth of this business will eventually also become the growth of ourselves in terms of. So a lot of people do things. It's just like a husband giving money to the wife and never tells the woman that, I love you. It doesn't say anything. There's no emotional connection. Sometimes leaders behave that way in terms of leading people. They don't build personal relationships with people. Yes, they're professional relationships, but it's personal. Sometimes those are the things that actually can make a person stay on within a place where the environment is challenging, but it's affirmative, and there's some personal touch. It's just like what they say, that if people come into a shop and you greet them with a smile, they are less likely to steal from you in that shop because of the way in which they have been greeted and appreciated when they came in. Of course, the thieves will still steal, but I'm saying it's less likely. So sometimes in this business of retaining people, we've got to understand that what makes a person stay within a place may not just be the material or all of that. It could be something much deeper than that. So that's all I'll say. But although talent will move, if the environment is not challenging and they don't have opportunities to exercise themselves, so they may move. But I'm saying that the retainership will be much higher if there is that personal, valuable connection that you build with people in your interaction with them. And it's not just, I pay you, I trained you, and there's that detachment that is there.
Okay. So three critical things: affirm, challenge, cultivate relationships. All right. So thank you very much. We have some questions in the chat. Laolu Alabi says, how do you balance training your people, which is resource? Okay, that's the one you've just answered now, similar to what I asked. Then the issue of office politics. I noticed in this part of the world, if you're not involved, people count you as not a team player. Should one get involved even when the discussion among them is against the management, or one should walk away when a better offer comes?
There's nothing like discussion against the management. That's not being a team player. You see, some of these things happen because people. For example, if I'm working in a place and my mother is ill in the hospital, and somebody after the office says, look, let me follow you to go and see your mother, buys food, does all of that, says mother and all of that, and does and helps me through those things and calls me up. I will not expect, if that person doesn't participate with me in speaking against management, I won't consider that person not to be a team player. There's no way I will not do, because the person has shown, all right, me that look, they're ready, they just are not going to they're just not down with that particular thing. All right. So there are other ways you can show. You don't, if you know that there's office politics, or which, when I say politics now, politics in its strictest sense can be defined as the science of interacting one with another. In other words, as people begin to interact one with another, there are dynamics and complexities that come into play. All right, where you have to have emotional intelligence, where you have to understand that your decision, what will be the unintended consequence of this. I can bring in technology into a place and make it more efficient, but somebody will lose power because of the level of efficiency that are brought in, which the person mentally will agree with, but emotionally can be distraught. So how do I manage the emotion of that person? All right, even though I brought in technology and that. So that is, we can talk about genuine office politics. But that negative side of there's nothing that destroys your career like gossip. There are 5 things that destroy the career of a person. One is gossip. Just stay out of it. If you say you want to be a team player, there are many other ways you can be a team player. All right, you can be the first to call the person on their birthday. You can do things for that person. You can support them in ways. The ways that they will know that this person has my back. It's just that they do not. And what's going to happen after some time is that the people who are engaged in that will begin to see that maybe the way this chap is doing it is the right way, right? He's involved with people, has a connection with everybody inside this office somewhat, but doesn't go down, all right, in terms of that. And people will come to respect you if you have your values and you are consistent with your values. Is when you are hypocritical, that people now will disrespect you, that you said something here that you are fronting here. Then they know that you lose that respect. But if you are consistent about it, if they know you do not gossip, all right, then they will not get you. However, but you still show that you will invest in the lives of the people, you will support them, you'll be there for them in their difficult times, but you don't go into all that side. You will be respected for that particular thing. And the consensus after some time for leadership will be with you, because everybody will say that we know this person will not backbite or do something wrong to us.
Right. Empathy and consistency. Empathy, consistency. We've got quite a number of questions. Yeah, so
I was supposed to be questions.
Oh, okay.
All right, well, I'll take 3 more.
Okay, let me just quickly summarize them.
All right.
Okay. Emeka says, looking at how Liverpool is doing right now, when does the leader decide that a particular method has run its course and seek a different perspective? Should I just take all of them and then you?
Oh, no.
Take them one by one.
All right. So I will encourage you. The person has this question. You know, I myself am a Liverpool fan, so I was agitated. But when I read the book and I realized where this man has come from, what is happening now has happened to him throughout his entire career. I mean, this is what made Jurgen Klopp. All right. Now, to us, you might say, oh, what's happened? This is what made him Jurgen Klopp. In fact, when I read and I saw when he got to Liverpool, how many losses he had, I mean, I looked at it and, you know, I realized that, you know, handling things like this is what actually made Jurgen Klopp. That's why Borussia Dortmund said that we made a mistake allowing this man to go to Liverpool, because we should have fired the players instead of firing him. So it's a space that he has been in throughout his entire life. All right. And if you read the book, you'll find out that he won't be sleeping now. I can tell you that Jurgen Klopp probably has 3 hours of sleep, because once he gets into that space, he starts pacing the floor up and down. All right. That's why it's good to read it, pacing the floor up and down, thinking deeply as to the adjustments that he needs to make. After the Champions League loss, he was pacing until he picked the Brazilian goalkeeper and picked. But the Brazilian goalkeeper, the interesting thing is,
So we can't hear you properly.
And it will have cost him maybe $6 million to get him. They paid $53 million, right, when he came to Roma. So, I mean, you learn from this. But they said why? They said the problem that they had was that some of these South American people come to Europe, language barrier, all of this, they can't adjust properly and they don't function well. So they wanted a smaller team to bring him into Europe. They watched him for 3 years. So I can tell you that he's watching a lot of things, all right now, and doing a lot of thinking. And the clubs that have stayed with him in those difficult patches have always reaped great benefits.
Okay. Thank you. I'll take two of these questions together, and then we'll take a last one after that. The first one is talking about the separation from his tactical soulmate. Okay, so what would be your advice on letting go of a critical person? But I'll marry that with the second one, which is that right now under Klopp, turnover of players is not so much. So what do you think is responsible for that? Is he able to spot talent, or is just his man management skills? So two questions in one.
Yeah, all right. The turnover management, that's what I was saying about what he learned from Borussia Dortmund. From Borussia Dortmund, when they were leading, the whole thing almost collapsed because he didn't retain talent. I think he allowed a lot of their players. It also happened to him when his teammates came from second division and they came 10th, they came 11th, they qualified for UEFA Champions League with somewhat Division 2 players, and all the big teams started buying off those players. So one of the things he learned about sustainability there was retention of players, which is why I think he has found a way to retain players, all right, and then the introduction of talent into it. So I think it's something that he realized that, and he consciously adapted himself to make sure that he won't lose talent when he begins to win a game. Okay, and you can see that he has a strong personal connection with his players, and even when they are not playing. I think about 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, he pulled out one of the players, Miller, and that one was in a kind of an argument with him, and he was explaining to him why he pulled him out, and explained to him on the pitch. He called him, he was explaining to him, and as that one was walking away, the person he replaced him with scored, and the player came back around and said, "You are correct." They were shouting. So he has that kind of rapport with his players, even when he's making those kind of changes there. That's why relationship with people, all right? I mean, in my office, every single staff of mine has a connection with me that another staff doesn't have. That's just the way it is. In other words, for example, there are people I will discuss football with and will laugh. There are people I will talk to this about. There are people if I want to make certain decisions. So everybody has that, everybody is in their own space, because I try to understand the personality type and then bring myself to relate with you in that personality type. All right. The second one that was asked was, what was it now? About
his tactical soulmate that left.
Yes. Now, I think it has an effect on him. We will have to wait and see what's going on. I think that man's contribution, just reading about the man saying that he will never take up the job of, now he's a director of football in Moscow now. He said he doesn't want the limelight. Those kinds of people are rare, all right? And if he was a tactical guy, I mean, they said, they used to make fun of him that Jurgen Klopp was a motivational guy and a go-hard, but he will build confidence into the players, but that was a tactical guy. In fact, what they said at the Champions League when Real Madrid played Liverpool was that he and Zinedine Zidane were not they were not tacticians. They were just, and so he was saying that how can you tell us we don't know tactics and both of us are playing the finals of the Champions League? But I do think that he will have to quickly find a real replacement for that person. Because if you are used to it within your soul, it can have an effect on you. You know, there's a scripture that says that a poor man through his wisdom saved a city, and nobody remembered that poor man. And what that tells me is that a lot of major decisions that we think smart people are making, great leaders are making, sometimes is somebody within their system that is just offered a thought, and they saw the light in that thought and went. And nobody knows about that person. That person may not be a celebrity. Nobody knows that person may not. But if you take that person out of that ecosystem, then you are going to start, and nobody might even know, except if the leader is humble enough to know that, I lost somebody who used to quietly suggest to me certain things. So you, as a leader, you have to understand because that's why I mentioned here that the reason why Liverpool left Klopp for 3 years, even though he didn't win anything, was that, and his Wolfgang Frank said it. He said, once he can build the Liverpool into his image, he's going to win things. So once you create that ecosystem around you that suits your leadership, your vision, then you have to be, all right, you have to be careful to make sure that you don't tamper with that ecosystem, with any element within that system in arrogance, because the thing can cause great collapse. So, but I don't know, all right? I don't know, maybe the man's time was up, maybe there's somebody else, I don't know what happened. Okay. So we'll wait and see. But some of the signs I'm seeing now tell me that maybe something is missing.
Okay, that's fine. I know time is fast spent, but there's a question there from Pastor Shola Folalade. He says, on the matter of, he's on second fiddle. Does it mean we shouldn't be extremely reliant on individuals, but rather have a system of developing more leaders so we're not left stranded? This still speaks to the ecosystem that you are talking about, but he's saying, should we rather have a system that develops more leaders so we're not left stranded?
That is the way to do it. You have to have a leadership pipeline and create, just like the human body has a system, it has vital organs, but it has a system, and create what I want to use the right word now, but you create those pipelines where leaders, but you don't want people who are contributing to make them look like you are, so there has to be that individuality where you appreciate people, but at the same time you create it. So if there's any exit there from the system, you immediately have replacements that are there. So as a leader, you must consciously, which is what I said, one of the qualities of Jurgen Klopp and his mentor was that there was a system where they raised a lot of leaders within the team. So you have to balance it. Leadership, I would say 80% is an art, which means you have to be able to, to know how you are implementing it so that it goes well. But I agree with that. You have to have a system that you create that is building up leaders within the place.
Right. Thank you very much. Leadership pipeline required. I guess, there's a last comment there, just a comment. It says, well, as a sport performance analyst, Jurgen is a fantastic coach. He will have to deal with personality leadership traits. Performance analysis will always put his leadership to test. So leadership is about blending in all hands. I think that's quite, that has been emphasized in all of the things that have been said today. Before I bring in Pastor Remy Morgan, who is going to give us the concluding remarks today, I want to say it's been a very fantastic time, even for me, but I just like to slip this in. Is strategy enough for success? And moving from success to success, what are those challenges from one level of success to another? If you just answer that, and then Pastor Remy can please come in. Thank you.
Me?
You said?
And the question from me.
I said
this is not part of the book. What you asking?
No problem. No problem. Now the reason I asked that, there's just a reason.
No. Strategy is two things are needed for success. Two things: strategy and then selection of talent that can execute that strategy. And that goes beyond just skill. It has to do with the temperament of the person, because sometimes to implement that, you need the right temperament, you need people who have empathy, you need, depending on what it is, and the allocation of the talent. The second one was success to success. What was it?
From one level of success to another. How do you keep that? I mean, we saw that in
I think that is probably the most difficult skill in the world. And what actually stops people from going from one level of success to another is one word: distraction, which people get distracted by the trappings of success. All right. They are not focused again on what they are doing. Their thought life is not constantly on the thing that is set before them. They've allowed other things to come in. The success gives you, if it's success that brings material possession, it gives you options. People can slip in things to you to do, which is not really part of your central core. So you have to have that inner circle, small circle you created for yourself in terms of what you're focusing on, and stay focused. Like Jesus said, he said something on stony ground and adversity killed it. But the one that fell among thorns, it was the cares of this world, the deceitfulness of riches, the lust of other things that choked it, and it became unfruitful. So it was once fruitful, but the thorns choked it. So many people, when they succeed, they allow other things to come in and choke it at that level. So focus at that particular point, keeping everything lean and staying focused on it, maintaining that daily routine that you've had that produced the success, making sure that in your thought life, your mind is predominantly in searching for new ideas, for greater expression of what you are doing. So at that level, most of the work you are doing is mental.
Are you a book lover or enthusiast? Do you need genuine and unique lifestyle products? Or are you looking for a place where you can find contemporary and a wide range of unique gifts for children and adults? Laterna is your go-to place for genuine and contemporary books and lifestyle products for wholesale and retail customers. We stock business books on management, leadership, financial success, entrepreneurship, personal development, and so much more. We carry children's fiction, non-fiction, educational books, CDs, and DVDs. We also stock Christian books on various themes, such as family life and parenting, church life and growth, spirit-filled living, love, sex, and marriage, to mention but a few. Laterna carries life and style books such as baby and child care, beauty and style, conception and pregnancy, crafts and hobbies. We also carry adult, children, and teenagers' Bibles, educational toys, framed art, gifts, greeting cards, home and office fragrances, music CDs and DVDs, stationery, teachings, and lots more. Our stores are located at 12B and 13 Okoawo Street, Victoria Island, Lagos. You can also shop online at www.laternabooks.com. Laterna, your lifestyle hub for book lovers. For inquiries, call 0803 301 4462, 0906 0002046 or 7. Chat with us via WhatsApp on 0803 301 4462. You may also reach us on social media via Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Laterna Books and Laterna Ventures.